That night, I saw my father kneel before the anthill, his voice shaking, calling, "Spirits of my fathers, open the gate of Amaka!"
They warned us no one should walk behind the kola forest after the fourth moon. But that's where my father went every night.
They said no one should follow the path that leads behind the kola forest after the fourth moon. But that was where my father went every night, barefoot, carrying a pot that smoked without fire. The whispers of the night path. The moon that night hung like a dying lantern above Amaka village. Its light trembled across the rooftops and clay paths, touching every hut but avoiding the kola forest like a frightened child. I, Amaka, daughter of Odogu the blacksmith, could not sleep. The crickets sang too loud, and the wind that moved through the palm trees carried whispers that made my heart beat like a drum. It was then I saw him, my father, moving like a shadow past the courtyard. He thought everyone slept, even my mother, who had long stopped asking questions about his midnight walks. But I was not my mother. I had watched him for moons, each night slipping out when the world was wrapped in darkness. He always carried a clay pot. Smoke rose from it, yet no flame ever burned within. He wore a red cloth around his waist, the kind reserved for men who had spoken with spirits or made pacts in hidden shrines. I followed him that night. I knew the stories that those who walked behind the kola forest never returned the same. Some said it led to the resting place of ancient warriors. Others whispered it was where the river mother punished men who broke oaths. But blood ties are stronger than fear. My bare feet followed his footprints along the narrow trail that cut through the forest like a scar. Owls hooted above, their eyes glowing like small fires. The air grew thick with the smell of clay, blood, and something old, something that had no name. I hid behind a fallen tree as my father stopped at the foot of an anthill, as tall as a man. He placed the smoking pot before it and began to chant. "Spirit of the forge, spirit of the fathers, take the hand of your son Odogwu, bind my path that none may see it." The ground trembled slightly, the pot hissed like boiling oil, and a voice, low, deep, and not human, answered him from the inside of the earth. "Have you brought the offering?" My father bowed, trembling. "Yes, Great One, the girl will be ready when the seventh sun rises." I nearly screamed. The girl? Was it me? He poured the content of the pot into the anthill. A thick red liquid seeped into the soil, and the voice laughed, a sound that echoed through the forest like the groaning of old spirits. I ran before my father turned. That night, I lay on my mat, wide-eyed till dawn. My mother asked if I had fever, but I only nodded. Inside me, fear brewed like bitter herbs. The silence of my mother. Days passed. My father was quieter than usual, his eyes sunken, his body tense like a bowstring. The forge where he shaped iron tools for the farmers grew cold. Then one evening he called me. "Amaka, come and sit." I obeyed. His voice carried a weight I could not name. My mother sat beside him, her face stiff as she ground pepper in the wooden mortar. "Tomorrow," he said, "you will go with me to the sacred hill. The priest of Ogbunike has summoned us. You are to take the course of our ancestors." "What course, Papa?" I asked, trembling. He did not answer immediately. He stared into the distance as if looking beyond this world. Then he said, "The course that keeps our blood alive." My mother dropped her pestle. The sound startled me. She looked at him with eyes that pleaded for mercy. "Odogu, must the child go through it? Haven't we paid enough to the gods?" He glared at her. "You know nothing of the covenant my father made. If she refuses, the forge will die and our name will be erased." That night, I saw my mother weeping quietly by the fireplace. I went to her, but she only pressed my hand and whispered, "Whatever happens, do not drink from the pot they give you. Promise me." I promised, but I didn't understand. The sacred hill. At dawn, we walked to Ogu Oba, the sacred hill that stood like a giant watching over the village. My father carried his strange pot again, the one that smoked without fire. I wore a white wrapper, and cowries were tied around my wrists. Villagers stared as we passed. Some bowed their heads, others crossed themselves and muttered prayers. The priest, Izeoba, was waiting at the foot of the hill. His skin was painted white, and a live snake coiled around his neck like jewelry. "Welcome, Odogu," he said. "You have brought the child." My father nodded. "Does she know what path she must take?" "She will learn," my father replied. They led me up the hill, where a circle of stones marked an ancient altar. I saw carvings of men with half-human, half-beast faces. The air buzzed with unseen energy. The priest began to chant, shaking his rattle. The ground beneath the altar split slightly, revealing a hollow space that breathed cold air. He brought out a small wooden cup filled with black liquid and handed it to me. "Drink," he commanded. I remembered my mother's words. With trembling hands, I brought the cup to my lips, but spilled it accidentally. The black liquid soaked the ground. The priest gasped, and my father's eyes widened in anger. "You defy the gods?" the priest thundered. I fell to my knees. "Please, I didn't mean to." Before I could finish, thunder cracked across the sky, though the sun was bright. The priest shouted incantations, and a whirlwind rose from the hollow. Something, a voice, old and furious, spoke through the wind. "The bloodline has broken. The chosen has refused the course." My father collapsed, clutching his chest. The priest screamed for the guards. I ran down the hill, barefoot, my heart pounding like a drum of war. The curse of the forge. For days my father lay between life and death. The forge no longer burned. Iron tools rusted overnight, and the bellows that once roared went silent. Villagers began to whisper that I had offended the ancestors. Some said I had brought shame to our lineage. At night I heard my mother praying, "Spirits of our fathers, do not punish the innocent. It was Odogu who made the vow, not Amaka." But even her prayers couldn't stop what came next. One evening, as the sun bled behind the hills, my father woke suddenly and called my name. "Amaka," he whispered weakly. "Forgive me. I only wanted to protect you." "Protect me from what, Papa?" He struggled to speak, his eyes rolling with tears. "From the debt of my own father. He made a covenant with the spirit of the forge. Each first daughter must renew it to keep our craft alive. I broke the law by marrying your mother, who was not chosen by the spirits. You were born under the wrong moon. The only way to correct it was for you to take the course." He coughed violently, and I held him. "Papa, please stop." But he went on, his voice cracking. "Now the spirits will come for what belongs to them. Before the 7th night, run to the woman of the river. She alone can change your path." Then his body went still. The woman of the river. The night my father died, the sky turned red. Thunder rolled across the hills, and the forge burst into flames without anyone touching it. People screamed that the gods had taken Odogu. But I remembered his last words, "the woman of the river." At dawn, I wrapped a cloth around my waist, took my mother's old calabash, and fled toward the Ona River, where it was said a spirit woman lived among the lilies. The path was long, filled with strange cries and rustling shadows. I reached the river as the sun rose, its waters glistening like glass. There she was, standing waist-deep in the water. Her skin shone like moonlight, her hair floated around her like smoke. She said without turning, "I know why you are here, child of Odogu." I fell to my knees. "Please, my father said you could change my path." She looked at me with eyes that held both pity and power. "Your father chose a road not meant for mortals. The course he wanted you to take binds flesh and spirit together. But there is another way, if you are brave." "What must I do?" "Go back to the forge before the 7th night ends. Gather the ashes of your father's fire, mix them with your tears, and speak these words. May the course of the fathers return to the soil, and the daughter walk free under the sun. But beware," she added, her voice echoing across the river. "The spirits will not release you easily." Before I could thank her, she vanished into the mist. The night of fire. That night was the 7th. The villagers refused to let me near the forge, saying it was cursed. But I waited until midnight, when even the guards had gone. I slipped into the ruins. The ashes still glowed faintly. I knelt, gathered them, and began to whisper the words the river woman had given me. As I spoke, the wind rose, the ground cracked. A fiery hand emerged from the ashes, the spirit of the forge itself. "You dare break the oath of Odogu?" it thundered. I wept, clutching the ashes. I did not choose this path. The fire spirit roared, but as the ashes touched my tears, a sudden calm spread through the air. The flames turned white, then faded. When dawn came, the forge stood cold but peaceful. The curse was gone. Epilogue. The course broken. Years later, people would say the daughter of Odogu defied the spirits and lived. The forge never burned again, but neither did our family know sorrow. Sometimes I still dream of my father standing by the river, smiling, his pot no longer smoking. They say every family in Amaka has its secret course, some of blood, some of pain, some of silence. But I learned that no path, however ancient, should chain a child's destiny. And so, under the same moon that once hid his secret, I forged my own path, not of iron and fire, but of freedom. The morning after I broke the course, the air in Umwaka felt different, thinner, as though something sacred had been torn open. Women fetching water stopped mid-song when they saw me. Children pointed and whispered my name like a warning. Amaka, the daughter who spoke against fire. Amaka, who silenced the gods. I tried to ignore them. My body ached, my hands still carried traces of ash, and sleep had not visited me since the night of fire. But somewhere deep in my heart, I felt peace, or what I thought was peace. Until the dreams began. That night, I saw my father again. He stood beside the forge, his eyes blight like molten iron. "Amaka," he said, his voice echoing as though from deep within the earth. "You have freed yourself, but not me." I reached for him, but his body turned into smoke and scattered into the wind. I woke with tears streaming down my face, the sound of his voice still burning in my ears. The elders called a meeting in the square the next day. The priest of Ogbunike, Eze-Oba, stood before them with his staff of bones. His eyes were furious. "She has broken a covenant older than our fathers," he shouted, pointing at me. "If she lives, our fields will dry, our animals will die, and the spirits will turn against us." A murmur rose among the villagers. Some nodded in fear, others shook their heads. Then old Mama Chimaka, the midwife who had helped birth half the village, stood and spoke. "You call her cursed? But did you not see how the sky cleared after her father's death? Did you not feel the peace in the air? Let the girl be. The gods are not blind." Her voice silenced the crowd. Even the priest hesitated. But I saw something dark flicker in his eyes, a vow that he would not let this end so easily. That night, my mother and I packed our things quietly. "We must leave before dawn," she whispered. "Eze-Oba will not forgive what you did. He serves power, not truth." We slipped away when the roosters first crowed, carrying only a mat, a calabash of water, and a handful of roasted yam. The forest swallowed us. For 2 days we walked. The land grew wild, the trees older and thicker, their roots rising like sleeping serpents. On the 3rd night, rain began to fall. We found shelter beneath a huge fig tree. My mother shivered beside me. "Do you regret what you did?" she asked softly. I looked at her, this woman who had carried pain in silence for years. "No," I said. "For the first time, I feel alive." She smiled weakly. "Then your father's spirit will find peace through you. But remember, when you defy an old path, new ones will open, and not all lead home." Before she could say more, we heard it. Drumming. Slow. Heavy. coming from the direction of the village we had left behind. My mother's eyes widened. They are calling the spirits of the forge. Why? I asked, heart racing. To hunt us. We ran. The rain beat against our faces, the earth slippery underfoot. The drumming grew louder, echoing through the trees. And then I saw them, lights moving in the darkness, figures carrying torches, chanting the name of Ogbunike. Return the child! Return the curse! They were coming for me. My mother grabbed my hand and pulled me toward a narrow path that led to the old river plain. The ground trembled beneath us, and thunder rolled, though the sky was clear. Suddenly, a flash of fire burst before us, and from it stepped the spirit of the forge. It was taller than a palm tree, its body made of molten metal and smoke. Its eyes were like burning coals. You broke the vow. Now the debt must be repaid. My mother fell to her knees, crying, "Take me instead. She is only a child." The spirit looked at her, then at me. Blood speaks for blood. You cannot hide from the covenant of your father. I stood, trembling, but a strange calm filled me. Then let me forge a new covenant. The spirit paused. What do you offer? I said, my courage, my life, but not my bondage. Teach me to use the fire not as a curse, but as strength. The spirit stared for a long moment. Then its flames dimmed. Very few mortals speak thus. You may try, but fire never forgets those who touch it. It reached out and touched my forehead. The heat burned like 1,000 suns, and I screamed. But when the pain faded, I saw a faint mark, the shape of a hammer and an eye, glowing upon my skin. Then the spirit vanished, and the torches behind us went out. When dawn came, the villagers were gone, and the forest was silent again. My mother looked at me with awe and fear. "Amaka, your eyes," she whispered. I looked into the river beside us and gasped. My eyes glowed faintly, like embers buried under ash. "I think," I said slowly, "the spirit accepted my offer." We walked until we reached a small hill overlooking the valley. There, we built a hut from palm branches and clay. My mother tended a small fire, and I, for the first time, forged a small knife from stone and iron ore I found near the stream. The fire obeyed me. It never burned too much, never too little. It danced as though listening to my heartbeat. That night, as stars filled the sky, I whispered to the wind, "I am no longer my father's shadow. I am my own forge." Somewhere deep in the distance, thunder rolled, not in anger, but in approval. Thank you so much for watching and supporting Zita's stories. Your love keeps African tales alive. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss part 2. And remember, new stories released every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday by 7 p.m.